stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
School senior lighting mission, school senior lighting in partnership with our community, empower students to pursue high-quality personalized educational pathways and grow as responsible lifelong learners who respect and value differences. Call to order.
TJ Toth.
Here.
Chris Davenport.
Here.
Patty Hearst. Here. Tom Ehrlich.
Here.
Rena Mendez. Here.
So, audience comments, we'll move on to administration reports, superintendent reports.
Thank you, President Toth. I just want to congratulate our cheer team. They finished second this past, was it first week of December they went? Maybe going into the second week?
Seven
Yeah.
and 10.
They went out to Charlotte. They finished second at the national tournament, so very proud of them. Just want to thank their coaches for all the time they put in. Also want to thank our principal, Mr. Borsitz, and our AD Moose for making the trip to go out there and make sure the kids were taken care of and safe, and they all got there and got back safely. So thank you guys for that. Also, congratulations to our Oiler Bots. They competed out in Fort Wayne this past weekend. They finished first place in core values out of 48 other teams. And they will be going on to the state tournament January 10th. Is that going to be down? Do you know where that's, down in Indy?
Down in
It's
Indy,
going
yes,
to be down in Indy on January 10th, so that's great news there. Diego Torres is a senior of ours. He actually came and performed out of our band. He was one of two finalists for the 2026 Lilly Endowment Community Scholarship. Unfortunately, we found out today that Diego didn't get it, correct?
Yes, hopefully you read his email. but,
Yeah, so, but just very proud of him. He should be very proud of himself for making it to be a finalist. He's an outstanding kid. I know he's gonna be very successful, later in life. December 16th, tomorrow, we have our band and choir concert at 5:30 PM. And then also, I just wanna talk to, just a message for the parents. I know it's easy to kind of go on Facebook, and kind of find answers. But if you're having trouble finding an answer, please just call the main office at the elementary or the middle school, high school. We have the accurate information. I know sometimes when you're going back and forth on social media, just the real information it falls behind, and all of a sudden you got all these different stories going on. So if you're ever in a situation, please just contact the schools. We have the correct information for you. We're here for you. We want to help you find success as well. And then also just a reminder to everybody that on our webpage now, thanks to the tech department and our principals at the elementary and high school, we have a link up under the menu with all of our events. We take pride in it. It's getting updated as we go. Sometimes, every now and then, there'll be something that's canceled last minute, but for the most part, that's going to be accurate moving forward. So please remember to refer to that if you need information. And then last, I just want to take a second. This is going to be our last board meeting before the new year. I just want to thank all of our teachers, all of our staff, all of our students for a great first semester. I hope our student body and our staff have a great break. They get some rest and they enjoy some family time or some time with their friends. So thank you. And then also the entire Whiting community, I hope you guys have a great holiday season and just very excited for semester 2. We have a lot of great things going on inside the district right now, and just can't wait for semester 2 to start. And our next board meeting will be the last Monday, January 26th. That'll be our next board meeting. So thank you, President Toth.
Next, we have a Fanning Highway presentation.
Yep, we have Nick here for Fanning Howie. The board approved for Fanning Howie to do a buildings needs assessment over fall break. They were able to come in for 2 full days. They worked with Jim, Buildings and Grounds, and they got a lot of work done, so they're here to present it.
Where's the best to present from?
You can stand
Stand in front?
You can
Okay.
stand in front of that guy right there in the middle.
Perfect. So once again, it's a pleasure to be back here to see all the shining faces, and what an exciting time of year. And I hope that there's a lot of information here. We've also provided some more information to the board on the backside to include within your packet. Ms. Roberta, I believe you put the full assessment in there, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So
You guys will get it.
yeah, he'll get that to you. Ultimately, I mean, there's, I think, 320 pages on the condition assessment and structural, so if you're really bored, Feel free, if you need to fall asleep at night, it'll help you. But what we'll do today is we'll look at a brief overview of our findings and then where we're going from here. So ultimately, it's all part of a facility assessment for School City of Whiting. I'm Nick Van Weren. I am a project architect with Fanning Howie. This effort, as Mr. Berta said, was not done by myself alone, though. We had a bunch of skilled individuals ranging from architecture discipline to electrical, mechanical, structural, lots of individuals there on the right-hand side that took part in this. So rest at ease that you had a lot of experts all in their own fields looking at your buildings. So we'll look at first where we are now, what has been accomplished to date, what does that start to say, and then where are we going? And that'll deal with what is all-encompassing of a facility assessment. We have different pieces and parts, the condition assessment. We added on a structural assessment, which I'll go through a little bit as well. And then some really key pieces that get really, really exciting is looking at the needs that are produced from condition assessment and other avenues that we'll talk about. And then ultimately that ties also with a functional assessment as well. So first is the where are we now? So what has happened to date? And the condition assessment, you'll see this is an overall summary of all buildings layered right next to each other, so you can start to see where one building was stronger, one building may have been weaker, and that's okay, that happens. Buildings are touched, renovated, built all at different times, and so to see that this is really a tool to start picking out the strengths of your facilities and the weaknesses. What we did see overall, net positive. So there has been some select project upgrades. The middle schools that were the middle school renovation that was recently taken on within the auditorium and the third floor, those showed very well. Obviously, there's a new roof on that building. There's new structure on that high roof. Your auditorium, I was recently in there. I mean, what a difference. That's awesome. And I am a little biased because I was part of that project, but what an opportunity and what a beautiful space. I was talking to Mr. Berta earlier today and some of the feedback that he's receiving from teachers and staff about the finish upgrades, the lighting, everything within that space. I mean, think about going from a less lit, dingy, old finish space and what that does to energy levels and ability to learn and focus throughout the day. So the football turf replacement, that's another recent endeavor that has been taken on, and I would think has been, we do have the athletic director here. I would assume that that's been a really positive impact so far. Good. And Fanning Howie was not part of that, but we did support some of those efforts and talk into it. So what an awesome experience. Net averages. I'll talk a little bit more about this because this is probably the biggest key coming out of all the condition assessments, life cycle versus maintenance. And I'll give more definition, like I said, in a second. But then we did see some obvious negatives. Some of these are easier to deal with or more straightforward to deal with in the future. Some of them are a piece or a part of, think about the infrastructure. You're more of a urban district here with the density that surrounds the school. There's some things that are harder. You don't have the room for big pickup drop-off lines that weave through your property and keep everybody off the street. So there's some things like that that might never change, but how do we make those experiences better or still improve the grading structures of those to make those safe and secure and overall a good experience, and for both your students, your staff, but also your community. A big one throughout the whole district was secure building access. You struggle with that. You have buildings, and we'll cover this more in depth, but the vintage of buildings, that wasn't a consideration. Some here, I think your high school dates back to 1909, the middle school's 1923. That's a challenge. Right along the same lines there is ADA accessibility. Restrooms throughout the district, there's not a lot of accommodations. If you do end up with a student with challenges, There's select locations of elevators. How do we make some of that better through improvements and future planning? And we'll hear more later in presentations, but, and I'll cover even more in life cycle and maintenance, but Josh is gonna share one of the items that he's been dealing with recently, and that's what we're seeing district-wide. And so I'll go into that a little bit, but the key here, as we go through each of the buildings, I've provided a summary of each of those buildings in a little bit more depth, and keep in mind, you'll be provided with this whole report, and you can look almost room by room. We went and assessed each of these categories, and so that's what is averaging out into each of these. Ultimately, what we see generally when we're talking all Indiana districts, it's very, very difficult to get a high 4 range or a 5. A 5 is like something that is brand new, functions perfectly, doesn't have anything wrong with it, and as you know, when you get into projects, even something that's brand new, there's budget, needs, all those discussions, and often concessions. So a perfect 5, even in those, in something new, can be hard to achieve. A 1 literally means it's likely missing or wasn't accounted for ever. When we're talking 2s, 2s are something that, hey, it was there, it's just old and not functioning. So you'll start to see, and you can go through each of the buildings. So we ultimately looked at the admin, athletic, and pre-K building, the one we're in right now. That did include the entire complex. We grouped that together. So we looked at the press box and the grandstands. We looked at the softball field. We also separately broke out the transportation building and its facilities. Keep looking, so right there. Then we looked at the primary school and Nathan Hale Elementary School. Keep going. And then ultimately the middle school and the high school as well. And the high school took into account Memorial Gymnasium as well. One more slide there. So ultimately, let's talk a little bit about life cycle analysis versus maintenance. So I want to say kudos to your staff, your students. Ultimately, everybody has put such an emphasis for years and years and years on maintaining your facilities. I had already known this from working on some of the previous projects, but my engineers, some of them that hadn't been here before, walked in and goes, wow, beautiful space, lots of things that are remnants of the old that are just awesome. And you guys have done a very great job of maintaining that. But your buildings are also very, very, very aged and old. It's usually rare that we find a building that something is so old yet still semi-functional. We usually find those things coincide, where age and functionality, wear and tear. So it's one of those things we have to balance on what does replacing this do for you? What's the difference here? Right now you have some areas, let's talk about interior finishes for instance. I don't know when the last time some of these areas have been touched. You have lighting that maybe the last time it was touched is in 1984. Mechanical systems. So typically when we're talking about a building in the industry today, we look at buildings as being 100-year buildings. Now that doesn't mean there's not touch points on those buildings. That means our overall goal is to make a building last 100 years. Obviously, we want to extend that as much as possible, so what do we do to do that? At a 50-year point, we take what's called a mid-life cycle refresh, and that's a deep dive into the mechanical systems, plumbing systems, ADA, finishes, everything. And usually what you did in 1984, where there's a bigger brush of an effort throughout a whole building, renovation effort, we see that at about the 50-year mark. Then on the 25-year and 75-year mark, we are looking at a refresh, but to a lesser scale. Maybe the systems are still generally working, but we need to replace the guts of them. Because mechanical systems, you can either do a full replacement or you can start to replace the guts within a shell. Just as an example. But on those 25-year marks, we look at what finish upgrades are necessities at that point. We look at, once again, we look at building access, how has it changed, how has education changed, how has your needs changed, and we take another typical point of touching a building and renovating it. So if we look at this timeline, you can see under all of them except for 3, we have construction periods when things were originally built, but we do not have very many renovations of significant scale. Now, we have lots and lots of drawings. We went through your whole vault, the drawing vault, found the second drawing vault, accessed all of that, and are providing that back as a resource digitally instead of paper to the school district, which will be a major asset for all parties involved. But ultimately, a lot of those, I mean, there is other roof ones, and so this is the main touch points that we're talking about here. So when you look at Whiting High School, 1909, that building right around 1960 should have been fully redone. New finishes, new systems, new looking at plumbing and bathrooms. It wasn't done. It wasn't touched until 1984, and it hasn't been touched since. So you can understand where lighting is out of date. Systems are meeting or exceeding their life expectancy. So it's easier to talk about mechanical systems, electrical systems, systems in general throughout a building. Most of them have a expected life expectancy. The water heater in your house has an expected life expectancy. Finishes are a little bit tougher. It depends on wear and tear, maintenance, use of the facility, what that room is being used for. But all of that, every bit of your facilities is past its useful life expectancy. So what does that ultimately translate to? What that translates to is you have been very, very good stewards of the community and the funding available to date. You have made the most of it. But ultimately, you're sitting on what could be a bunch of, I want to use appropriate language for in the school board, I want to say ticking time bomb, just for argument's sake. All of these things, they're running, they're active, they're in good shape generally right now. But things are going to start to fail and you don't know when that is. Josh is going to talk to you about one of those items tonight that is failing, network connection, internet problems. Well, in this day and age, you can't do anything in education without internet. That's what it's based on. What I don't want to see happen is mechanical systems start to go down. Your maintenance crew can only repair and put Band-Aids on things for so long. Eventually, you can't source the parts, you can't even work with the system anymore. It becomes so outdated. That's where you are now. How many of those is a little bit daunting because it's every system. So let's take a step back and look at structural assessment, because this was a unique piece to School City of Whiting that Mr. Berta, rightfully so, asked, and this board asked to be included in the assessment phase. Most of the time when we do condition assessments, you're not dealing with buildings that are from 1909, 1923. You're dealing with more what we're looking at right here in this facility of 1992, 93 vintage, where the structure is generally assumed to be in good condition, relatively newer, using general rules of thumb appropriate to code. What we found on previous projects in the middle school that has been corrected was structure from 1923 that was insufficient. So we specifically had JPS consulting engineers. I've worked with them over a decade. They came in and they looked at what they could see and what they could evaluate. Structure's hard. Some of it is hidden behind walls, some of it's concrete, and it's more based on what rebar's in there, and trying to find 1909 rebar drawings isn't going to happen, right? But in those cases, what we're looking for is active cracking, active settlement issues, anything to present themselves. What we ultimately found through all of the structural assessments, you are in good shape. So everybody can sleep at night, rest at ease. There was no major concerns brought forward. I think there is one rafter, actually that middle, the second page there, the bottom photo, right to the right of that, I believe that is right above the middle school gymnasium. There is one cracked rafter, one cracked roof rafter. When I asked structural any major concerns that I need to bring to light, and they said one cracked rafter, it's a $30 fix. So overall, they did note other cracks that are apparent in the terrazzo floors, in some of the concrete. All of it has been patched, repaired. There's some examples of that, even really kind of a non-structural example, but some of the wing walls of this building that extend out towards the softball field. Any of those cracks, your maintenance team has been on it. Those things have been cleaned out, filled, maintained so that they don't get worse. So that's what we've seen throughout. Rest at ease. I think your structural major concerns are behind you, which is a huge win. So where are we going? What do we do with all of this information? That's the fun part and exciting part, and what we'll continue to develop on. We've started this process. A piece of that is a functional assessment. So we start looking at the current space programming. What square footage, what usage, how often is it used, all of those types of factors. So this information hasn't quite yet made it to the next level of being vetted, but it will get to that point. There's lots of review meetings here coming. But ultimately, you have a few different factors. Middle school, high school, those students are moving room to room for different subjects, different content, education matter. So they're a little bit unique. That's why you start to see a utilization chart here where I'm charting all of the rooms that are usable for education, how they're being used, when they're being used, at what time. Some of your middle school and high school programs actually cross-pollinate. Some of them are using high school spaces. Very good use of space. You are pretty full, is what that's showing. When we get down to elementary school and primary, and then even the pre-K that's here, it's a much more straightforward understanding, because those students aren't moving room to room. They sit in a room, and unless they go for PE classes or anything like that, that's their room for the day. So it's a little bit more straightforward to understand space utilization. For instance, pre-K in this building, I think you're using 2 of the 3 rooms you have available. So you have some space. You start looking at primary, elementary, I think there is some space needs there. What we do with that is we start to overlay all that information, making sure it's accurate. That gives you a good picture of your facilities. If you had a bunch of extra space, what we find is people fill it and then think they're full. Well, we want to make sure we weed that out and understand, is that the truth, right? It's the same thing we do at home. If you have a storage room, you're going to fill it, right? So that's the first step. At the same time, and Mr. Berta and Josh and I have already started talking about feedback and surveys. So we want to start understanding from all the staff, students, community, all of their perspectives. And each one's going to be unique. Staff, we've actually received some information from the music director already on band rooms, both within the middle school and within the elementary. It's information that won't necessarily present itself during a condition assessment. It's operational things of, hey, I've been making do on this and just living with this for decades. Well, all of a sudden having it brought to light is crucial. Having their perspective on how they teach, what works well, what doesn't work well, is very important. You start to look at students. Students usually go the route of, hey, I want this. Can we add this? And endeavors like this, where we're looking holistically at building needs, we would be remiss if we didn't look at what are the additional opportunities you have here. If there is extra space, what programs could fill that? What opportunities could be presented to students? Or what is an important enough addition to create the space more? And then community. Often you're going to have a mixture on community. People that have students here, people that don't have students here. Even the people that have students here, some of them, they drop their kid off and they don't know what happens behind those doors. So, but it's still important to include them. It's still important to understand what they understand about the facilities, what would be better in the facilities, or a better connection to them. Obviously, Whiting is one of those communities that is very, very strong and close-knit. I've seen the positivity all around it. So how do we draw on that and include the community in some of these feedback sessions? And then ultimately, work sessions. And these, I listed board work sessions, but honestly, that'll happen with the students and staff as well, and can potentially even happen with the community. Surveys are one avenue, work sessions are another. But we want to meet with you, keep you in the loop as well, and make sure you're understanding where we're headed. So then, when we start to look at future planning, next slide, this is what you'll start to see getting populated. There is an abbreviated first, very preliminary draft of this included, or that will be included in Word docs for your viewing. And keep in mind that anybody here in community that might be remotely watching, as we formalize some of these documents, we will be, Ms. Roberta, I assume, making them available to everybody. We try and not belabor the amount of times that goes out, because if you release a 320-page document and then release it again, nobody knows where the changes were. They're somewhere in the 300-something pages. So we want to release it at once and be most effective, but there is lots of data that anybody can look through. So ultimately, what we need to do next, and we've started to do, is look through potential project lists. This could be on a holistic fashion, this could be on an individual fashion. Often when we see schools that have touched their buildings more on a regular cadence, we see some reliance on individual projects. Okay, what did we touch, but what didn't we touch? Let's focus on getting that up to date and fixed or improved. In a case like yours, with the nature or the last time that everything was touched, we're actually recommending holistic renovations and looking at project scopes from that avenue. So for instance, it doesn't make sense right now only to come in and make ADA restroom upgrades. What makes sense is to look at ADA restroom upgrades, the lighting, the finishes through there, how those function, are they in the right place, do we need more, all of those things, and really make it a project. So my team architecturally has gone through and populated these documents from an aspect of, let's take it floor by floor in buildings, because we do want some kind of breakdown. We do want to understand, if we just came to you and said you need X amount of dollars, it doesn't tell you anything. Where is that dollar going? Where are we making that recommendation? So for instance, if we took the middle school, we're going to look at that second floor and we're going to say, okay, if we did everything in the corridors, what does that mean? Well, from a scope standpoint, that's going to be, let's get the finishes updated. Let's take your terrazzo floor and refinish it. Bring it back to its former glory. Let's do ceiling upgrades, replace those, get a brighter, whiter, smoother ceiling in there that doesn't create shadows. Couple that with LED lighting replacement, new diffusers, all of that, let's do it at once. And so what would that cost be? Then on the same second floor, we're going to take all of the classrooms, academic spaces, and apply the same thing across those. The exception to that is probably the restrooms. All right, let's take those as one piece. But what we don't want to have happen is, okay, we came into room, I'm just going to say the arbitrary number 201, and we replaced the lighting this year. Next year, we're going to come in and we're going to rip out the ceilings, and the lighting we just replaced is going to have to be temporarily hung, replaced again, installed. We don't want to do that. The better you can complete a space and move on, usually the better, the more efficient approach, especially with where your facilities are at. At the same time, we want to start looking at the mechanical systems. One positive on the middle school, using that as an example, while we did the auditorium and the third floor, we identified that there was 2 mechanical units adjacent, kind of behind that boys' bathroom there, in that space, that we would have no future access to if we didn't touch them then. What it would have meant was cutting a hole in your brand new roof that's up there to crane and go through a concrete deck and crane units in. Well, we were able to address the board at that time. You guys saw the benefit in those were already past their expectancy. There was maintenance issues ongoing with them. So during that project, we cut a hole in the roof, we lowered the 2 new units in, and you don't have to come and tear apart construction you already touched. It was very prudent, it was smart. So now there is other units that supply some of the academic spaces of that building, actually down in a, I think, shared room with the high school. and then they come up through chases to supply the classrooms. Those haven't been touched yet. So, for instance, that would be a good breakout project as well. Address all the local supply pieces in one, source pieces in another. And same thing technology-wise, I mean, we have all sorts of those types of projects identified. But we'll have a nice breakdown. We'll be partnering with a construction partner in the future on getting holistic pricing for that. And then down the road, that'll help establish overall budgets and understanding what we want to do, how we want to approach this, and how you want to look at future years. With that, I think that might be my last slide, maybe just a thank you. So with that, didn't want to take a lot of your time tonight, but I did want to cover a lot of information, and we did. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate your patience. I'll open it up for any questions.
So I just appreciate the work you're doing, because it's gonna help us. It's hard to be fiscally responsible or when you don't have a plan, right? So what they're providing us is a plan over the next 10, 15 years of priorities that need to be addressed immediately. What can wait 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years? But we're making those adjustments, and we're doing those improvements as we go. One, for the safety, obviously, of our students and staff, and then making sure our students are receiving the same opportunities as other students are in the area that attend other schools. It's important that we stay up to date with those changes and make sure that they're getting those things as well. So, and then also part of our strategic plan, goal number 4, has to do straight with our facilities and making sure we're making those improvements as we move forward. So everything looks like it's going in the right direction. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
All right, we'll move on to the consent agendas. Board minutes, regular meeting, approval of the school season Whiting board minutes from November 24th, 2025. Approval of claims for the month of December in amount of $868,568.08. Donations, approval to accept donations, $200 donation from Whiting Post 80 American Legion to the Whiting Middle School High School band, $500 donation from AQS of Chicago to the cheer team, donations of $150 to $200 from local companies to the Whiting Elk for the district Christmas party, Calumet Supply, Region Science, Lansing Sports Shop, Misprint, Fanning and Howell. And we have our personnel report.
Yep, I'd like to turn it over at this time to our athletic director, A.D. Lewis.
Evening, everyone. Super excited to announce Whiting football found its next head football coach. Adam Hudak comes to us with the wealth of football knowledge, wealth of relationship building, servant leadership, you name it. Outstanding person, outstanding coach, actually also an emergency room nurse. So I'm excited to see that our kids are in good hands no matter what happens on the football field, off the football field. Leader of young men, so extremely excited to announce him as our next head football coach.
First, I want to thank Mr. Jennings, the former coach of ours, for coming here and supporting the football program in Whiting like he always does. I also want to thank Coach Knight for coming. I think it shows a lot of your character being here, Coach Knight, welcoming in the new head coach, and then also assistant coach, Mr. Davenport back there. Thank you guys for being here, and the players as well. You can take it from me, you guys are going to find out right away that Mr. Hudak, he has high expectations. He knows the game of football very well. He's been successful everywhere he went. I've worked with him before, and he's a great leader, as our AD said, and just very excited to see what he's going to do with the Whiting football program as we go forward. So, congratulations, and welcome, Mr. Hudak.
So approval to accept the personnel report. I have a motion to approve all consent agenda items as presented.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Chris, second by Eddie. Any comments, questions, or concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Move on to the new business. Approval of the consultant service agreement with Stephen Klink. Have a motion.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Rena, second by Tom. Any comments, questions, or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? Approval of resolution number 5-25, re-administrator non-renewals. Have a motion.
Second.
Motion by Tom, second by Patty. Any comments, questions, or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? Approval of MOU with Indiana University for Advances College Projects. Have a motion.
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Chris, second by Patty. Any comments, questions, or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? Approval of the School City of Whiting 2026-2027 district calendar. Have a motion.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Rena, second by Tom. Any comments, questions, or concerns? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Approval to accept NWIESC and NIESC food procurement agreement for the 2026-2027 school year.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Tom, second by Chris. Any comments, questions, or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? Approval to change summer hours to a 4-day work week, Monday through Thursday, 6 to 4, and off on Friday from Monday, June 8th, 2026 to Friday, July 31st, 2026. Motion.
Motion.
Motion by Rena, second by Chris. Any comments, questions, or concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of grant from BP for the STEM program for 2025-2026 school year.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Tom, second by Patty. Any comments, questions, or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? Approval for Tri-Electronics to install 4-door speakers at Whiting High School. Motion. Motion by Rena, second by Tom. Any comments, questions, or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? Approval of WAN Edge Appliance Configuration Service quote for Logicless for $17,175.34.
What's the, our tech director, Josh, so you want to explain that really quick, what that is?
Yeah. We are experiencing serious challenges to our wide area network connection to our local area network. 6 of the last 12 days, we've had internet outages. We've been fortunate, kind of what Nick was talking about, like fortunate to be able to restore that. This is a piece of equipment and the configuration services that we hope will keep us up and running, operational, and moving forward.
Thank you. Any questions for him? No?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Patty, second by Chris. Any comments, questions, or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? Approval to attach fundraising. Approval for the attached fundraising.
Motion.
Motion by Tom.
Second.
Second by Patty. Any comments, questions, concerns? All in favor? Opposed? Move on to F, audience comments, general matters. Do you have any comments from the audience? Move on. Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Chris, second by Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.
All right.